Welcome to another episode of Better Than Netflix Fantasy Football Podcast. This week we're going to talk about some of these COVID concerns sneaking up on people in week 4, as well as the perfect records that are still on the board heading into week 5. And
either end of the spectrum.
Perfect is perfect, Mike. But
Indeed.
last week we were kind of like midweek, as all of a sudden COVID concerns got one game postponed indefinitely, basically, and then
Pittsburgh game, yeah.
The Pittsburgh Tennessee game, and then followed by the Kansas City New England game that was just pushed to Monday.
I'll be honest with you, I was actually hoping for a no New England, no KC game, because that meant that I didn't have to go against Hilaire. So it worked out in my favor, but I was sweating.
No, and we'll talk about sweating for you a bit later. But let's see, a lot of people attacked the waiver wire last week, and this previous week's winners was Pope Without a Hat scoring the big money with 144.8 points, which surprisingly is almost like a week winner low for us this year.
All right, yeah.
Bear Beats Beginners puts another tick in the win column, followed by Bench Warmers. The participants still undefeated. It's Casey squeaking out another win, but making sure moving up the chart. And as we guessed it, the closest game of last week was between you and Justin. And
yeah, that's the first time I think we actually guessed it and we were right.
No, for sure. And it didn't seem like it was going to be close headed into Monday, but the quarterback,
I think going into Monday, I had like a 13-point lead going against Hilaire and Watkins.
Yeah, and
KC.
I was
like, I'm it's over. I got no chance.
No, I was gonna sit there counting the dollar bills out, making sure that you knew that I guessed right, but
what happened?
Well, freaking, Russell Wilson did his part for Justin at quarterback. Beating your Drew Brees of 23 points to 17 points.
Yeah.
I will say the consistency basis of the running backs went to Justin. You got Johnson out of Houston with double digits, which is, for him, what you wouldn't expect.
Right.
Edwards-Helaire, 10.6. And if that's a floor for Edwards-Helaire, that's pretty good. I'll take him on my team any days. On the other side of that, though, Chris Carson, who was questionable possibly entering that week, goes big, 2 touchdowns, 80 rushing yards, 20 received yards, 22.5 points.
Yeah, big one.
That kind of makes up for your lackluster of Austin Eckler there, 1.9. So
yeah, lackluster. Well, that's what happens when you hyperextend your knee, Cameron. When you go out with an injury early, you only get 12 rushing yards, 2 receiving yards, and you sit on the cart on the way out. But as you say, even Stevens on the other side, 10 points all. For those guys, and then 22 for Carson really saved me, as you say. I mean, if it wasn't for Carson, that'd be a big zero. But actually, with Carson Eckler only picking up 1.9, they still outscored in the running back game. And against Hilaire, that's not something that's going to happen very often this season.
No, you put an L on that. And Eckler, Hilaire, and Eckler. Eckler is still injured, so I think you might be struggling on this week, but you're absolutely right.
4 to 6 weeks for Eckler. Yeah.
Rough. Talk about wide receivers there, Mike.
Yeah, on the wide receiver front, this is actually a tale of almost the exact same story. On my side, you got Woods, 35 reception yards, 2 rushing yards, 6.7 points, and that's a season low for Woods. This is the first time he's dipped down that low. On the other side of the ball, or excuse me, the other side of the matchup, we got Watkins, 43 receiving yards, and here's the big one, the fumble.
I think Sammy Watkins won you this game, okay?
I mean,
Butterfingers.
He holds on to that thing, and I mean, it's a 0.7 points. 0.7. That's the gap between us. He holds on to the ball. That's as you say. That is Watkins MVP for the I Like Turtles right there. Appreciate you, Watkins. But continuing on the wide receiver front, Evans again making it happen for me with Tampa Bay. 21-70 had a reception there, touchdown, 122 receiving yards. But on the other side of the ball, kudos to Fuller. He's kind of a boomer bust kind of guy, and he boomed big enough anyway for 1980, which is strong. 108 receiving yards, also picking up a touchdown of his own. Not much spread there, but again, favored to me. About 3 or so points from Woods over Watkins, and about 2 points Evans over Fuller.
No, for sure. And what about your tight ends there? Like, they're keeping it close, it seems.
Yeah, absolutely. On the tight end front, the injuries continue though. Noah Fant able to walk away with. I say walk away. That's funny. He actually severe sprain his ankle, so he's still able to pick up 6 points. Only 35 receiving yards against the Jets. This is a what could have been scenario for Fant. He's also out here for a little bit. He's questionable, kind of week to week. Don't think he's going to be back. So I've got 2 players that have actual injuries to take them out of the game early. On the other side of the ball, Ertz just decided that he was not going to be the guy, except for when we're picking off 2-point conversions. Highlight of his game. 9 reception yards is all he has, Zachary.
Yeah, it seems like he was targeted very few times. The flex position, you went with the daredevilish task of placing a Miami's Dolphins team, it doesn't matter, on your roster. Gaskin. And, he has got multiple carries. 7 points, which for me, I'm like, for Gaskin, that's pretty good. Your flex player, that's pretty good. And Justin pulling his lineup up from 2011, Adrian Peterson going against New Orleans.
It was interesting about that flex position, to your point about putting Gaskin on there. You know what it was? It was watching Thursday Night Football.
Against Jacksonville.
He's doing work, and I'm like, I like this kid, and I picked him up off the waiver wire. He's getting a lot of touches. I want to say second year player. I don't think he's a rook. I think he's a second year. I guess I could look real quick, but he's been consistent on the touches. He's been consistent on the rushing yards. Hasn't found the end zone yet. They keep giving it off to other running backs to make that happen. And he gets Peterson, who, if we go back a few years, to your point, monster, right? I actually drafted Peterson and just got rid of him prior to this week for who did I get? Oh, Gaskin.
Yeah,
that's who I picked up.
Almost cost you the game here. All right.
Almost. I finally lose 2 points here where it starts to cost me.
And looking at your guys' bench, it's not like Justin had a whole lot to work with. He was singing NSYNC in the background, bye for all those Tennessee, Pittsburgh players. He left Julio Jones on the bench, which would have done him.
Normally, that's a scary move, but in this case,
it's all he needed. He could have put Julio or Brown in for Sammy Watkins and tipped him over the scales in favor of winning this week. That being said, you also had some similar options on your bench. We had Montgomery with 9 points in for Eckler. Who knows who's going to get hurt, but the rest of your lineup.
You're not going to do. If we're going to talk about actual bench moves here, Cam, what are you going to do? You're going to actually start the week Montgomery against Indy versus Eckler against Tampa Bay. Eckler has been putting up. No, you're not going to do that. You're not going to freaking do that.
I'm not saying. I would have started Montgomery over Gaskin, but like that's just me. I would have.
Fair.
But
Fair.
Regardless, you can, as I call them, your roulette players. You can. The fact it's a dead tie between your kickers is unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, the first, I wasn't really paying too much attention. I saw the little alerts, and all I saw for the first part of Sunday was Blankenship gets you a field goal. Blankenship gets you a field goal. The first 3 things are Blankenship getting field goals. I'm like, is anybody else doing anything at all? Yeah, but to your point, 13 all for the kickers on both sides of the ball. Two extra points on Carlson's side, one on Blankenship's. A 20-29, 2 30-39s, and a 40-49 on my end. On the other side, though, Carlson, a 20-29, a 30-39, and a 50+ on the Carlson side for 13 points. That was big. I thought a bold move, though, if we're going to talk about bold moves, leaving the Jets defense in. Wow. And it almost paid off, mate.
I looked at that and I was like, what is he doing? Like I looked.
That was a mistake.
And then I looked at the waiver wire and I was like, he doesn't have a lot of options. Like, it's just gnarly. But still keeps it close. They get away with a pick 6, some interceptions after my Broncos just start throwing them the ball like they're wearing the same uniforms. And your Colts, weren't that exciting, but they held him to 11 points, so that from 8, a point differential of 1. And as you mentioned earlier, 103.1 to Justin and 103.84 to you. 0.74. That's what I like to see when it's not my games. So,
right? Yeah, and actually, I would have been sweating on that big time. I had already decided that I was going to lose going into Monday. I didn't even pay attention, and then we shot recorded the FCP podcast, and we were on the way home, and I'm like, I guess I'll check Monday night scores because it was 6-something, and I had won, and I'm like, hold on a second, am I reading this right? It was unbelievable.
No, that's
crazy.
And someone noted, thank you, Travis, that even though you won, you actually dropped down in the standings.
Yeah, it's all a part of the strategy, Cameron. It's winning's one thing, but when you can win and still have the number 4 waiver wire pick, mastery. That's what I say.
That's impressive. And kind of looking at our standings, unfortunately, the infamous, the myth, the man who you give change to on the side of the corner, Derek Escobar, is still perfect. On at least in this fantasy football. I'm thinking every other aspect of his weekend. Yeah. But yeah, he's 4-0, has probably one of the weaker schedules looking at this. He actually has the weakest schedule that everyone's played. But he still holds it. I can't, I'm the commissioner. I don't set up these schedules, so I have to give it to him. And then we got that's just perfect for him.
One thing I want to point out about him real quick, and he actually squeaked out a W. It was 106 to 104 here that he was able to pick it off over Trevor. And a lot of we've been talking a bit about it. A lot of it came out of Calvin Ridley all year. And how many points? Zero points for Ridley. So honestly, that's actually kudos to the rest of his team. Real quick, I'm going to run down this. We don't want to do this very often, but look at this. Fitzpatrick, he puts in 26 points. You think that's pretty good? What's the bench say? Teddy Bridgewater on the bench at 31 points. You just picked him off the waiver wire. I don't know if Derek is looking like a genius or he accidentally hit the right button. I don't know what the hell's going on. Elliott with 15, Robinson 12, the other Robinson on his team 19-6, Ridley 0. It doesn't matter. Ingram 6, Jones for Tampa Bay, which I wasn't sure that was going to be the deal. Jones 15 points. What Fournette pick up? 15 points. I'll tell you that. Crosby 4, Seahawks 6. You know what? The kid's starting to look like he knows what the hell he's talking about.
And I still won't give him that kind of credit, but it definitely looks good for now. I did want to mention it's early in the year, and the top 8 go to the playoffs. So even with your win, you're actually put in the regulation zone here in 9th. Trevor, the auto drafting master, sitting 1-3, is 10th. Justin, who looked very strong early, also 1-3 in 11th. He also had one of the worst grades that the draft gave him. And the other perfect man on the standings here is me, 0-4. Just like the Bills in the playoffs, in the Super Bowls, they are perfect.
And the Atlanta Braves, I believe.
It's amazing. Justin and I have the hardest schedules out of everyone so far, but we're looking to turn it around. We only got to get up into top 8 to make a playoff run, and I'm believing in my team a little bit.
Yeah, we started thinking about how things went last year, though. We're talking about a 13-game season, and you guys are you're 0-4, 1-3. Hell, I'm 2-2. Taking a look at some of these things. 13. You got to go 9-4 here. We're starting to get on the edge. I want to say making the playoffs was an 8-8 game, or 8-8. I don't think it was. No, it couldn't have been 8-8. Pinch me, because math. It was like 6-7.
You had
6-7.
Yeah, it was a losing record. It wasn't anything spectacular.
Yeah, so you still are right there. One thing I want to point out before we move on from the standings, though, the person who scored the most points, Shelby, 557. And actually a decent schedule here at 462. So she may be P2 with the single loss, but Shelby could be rolling right now with the future. And something actually you can look into, just to kind of give credit where credit's due. If you break down the overall win-loss totals, so basically each week you take your score versus everybody else's,
and how you would have played. So Shelby would actually be sitting at 35-9.
Mm-hmm.
Trevor, who is third to last, I believe, would be second with 29-15. And there's actually quite a big tie, but that just shows you that like it really depends on your matchup sometimes. That people are just a little bit unlucky with their schedule because their teams are solid. I would still be last, and Justin would still be second to last, but the rest of the
order looks, yeah. I mean, you get Derek's down there P5 for the true. He's down there P8 for the coach side, which means who you've left on the bench. But I'm actually going to lean towards that being he's always had 1 or 2 QBs on the bench. Same goes with you, and that actually counts against you as far as how many points are left on the bench there.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, absolutely. Breakdown. Shelby, she's making the right picks right now. 11-0 in week 2, 10-1 the last 2 weeks. Shelby's on a roll.
Yes, and I'd still look out for those top 3 right there: Shelby, Trevor, and we'll give Taylor the Holy Hand another shout out there. But really,
who won the Super Bowl last year? Logan, right?
Logan.
And who was playing him? Taylor. So, yeah, we're talking about Taylor P4 right now, Logan P3, and they had to come from behind. They came in on wild cards, I want to say, or right on the outside. So if they're already there, watch out, guys. So,
and kind of what I really need to look at is the waiver wire, seeing what we can do to like make my team better, because I'm kind of sick of losing. So let me, of course.
Yeah. If you look at the waiver wire, though, I mean, I think when we're talking about the waiver wire, especially as this is going to go out there on Wednesday, the real story is where are the holes? Like you said, we're just going to jump on yours right out of the gate, if you don't mind, here while you're still fumbling around with your stuff there. Your lineup here, Commissioner Gordon versus Steelers fan, the aforementioned Taylor we're talking about right now. The first thing that pops out is there's a lot of the B word in there, buys.
Yeah, and Seek's coming back. I'm coming in there getting ready. Bye. It's gonna happen. But
please don't do that. If you look at your projected though, bud, you're looking pretty good. If you wipe out that buy, I guess the question is, WTF, mate, on the tight end position.
Yeah, I like to run a single tight end set here. I've got someone on my
no tight end set.
Yeah, I've got someone on the waiver wire getting ready to pick up. It's slim pickings, but with the well-timed 0-4 start, I have the number 1 waiver wire choice. So I will
strong move.
I will get him. Taylor's got to look at his flex position there. He's got some bench players, none of them very strong, but he does have some health there to kind of push him forward
yeah, I mean, if you want to talk about, if we're talking about the flex position, you see a big BYE in there with the flex position. But one of the more important things to think about is a little bit north on that list. Nick Chubb out on IR right now, and that means he now has 2 spots to fill. One has to be a running back. The other one could be a wide receiver. Mm-hmm. What do we have here for selections? I guess we could put in Cooks for a deal there, but what are you doing on the running back game?
He's got between Moss and Lewis, which just aren't great options, but if it has to get him through, he has to go searching, because those are not good backups at all.
Right. If we head on to the next game on the line here, as far as some of the holes, the aforementioned Shelby, the big scorer so far, what has she got for holes? Well, you got Bell with an IR. That sticks out at me right now.
Followed by Coleman with an IR, and pair of buys. But her team's still healthy. She looks projected with 100 points and 99.7, and she still has to find a running back. So I wonder what her waiver wire is going to look at.
Yeah, because we're looking at the no running back on her bench. So she obviously has to go to the waiver wire. This is where things get a little bit interesting, because she's running that 2 tight end game with Hooper and Smith in her lineup. On the other side here, both without a hat. Fresh off a W, high score, going against the high score. He's projected to win, and he's got a full lineup save for a kicker. So that's looking pretty good for Pope to maybe go 2 for 2 against the high score of the series right now.
Propel him to 3-1 record. I'll jump into the next game, which for Trevor, 115 points and a full bench to work with, some questionables. On the other side, our past champion, kind of the guy he's been putting all his eggs in one basket, Aaron Rodgers, bye. and he
Yeah,
doesn't have
Aaron Rodgers by, and like you said, nothing. Are you gonna say nothing on the sidelines there? And I think maybe the first thing we start talking about, we're talking about waiver wire. If I take a quick gander, oof,
It's rough. I don't know who he's looking at, but for me, I'm looking at Phillip Rivers maybe as a streaming choice for him this week. But he's got to.
I'll tell you right now, if it's me, if I'm gonna channel my inner Logan. And nice thing is he's already done this, or is doing this currently. We'll find out later. I'm gonna say Nick Mullins. I like the San Fran against Miami move.
Ooh.
It's Miami.
It is Miami. I'll give you that. I'm gonna go with the aged vet of Phillip Rivers though for him. Hoping for him. But I'll jump into the next game, which is kind of lackluster in our topic, which is Uno Master versus Saved by Odell. These guys
are 2-2s.
Obviously planned for this week. You know,
they're good.
We've got Travis with 2 IRs on the bench. I think he'll drop Sony Michel. I don't think he's coming back anytime soon. And then you got DeAndre Swift with a bye, but he's already found his replacement, as he doesn't need one. That was his backup running back, so he was looking good right now.
Yeah, and actually on both sides of the ball, we're looking at, like you say, a full roster. It's a 119 to 112 advantage Travis, and I think we can look at just a couple of spots really for where that is. I mean, you got Patrick Mahomes. He's got 4 points over Matt Ryan. I'll tell you right now, the Matt Ryan thing, I liked it at the beginning of the year. I thought they were going to come out swinging with some weapons. Atlanta has just been a letdown. So and against Carolina, they've got a little upside there. I hate to say it, but I say this, it's an upside, but they're looking good the last couple of rounds, the old Carolina Panthers.
I will say that they have, and I also note Atlanta Falcons have been a high-scoring letdown. They don't win games, but they put the ball up there. And I'll jump into actually your game versus Casey, who squeaked out a win to become 2-2. Another battle of 2-2s. Yeah, you guys looking good for week 5. Not a whole lot of suffers. Casey's there, has his favorite team, Green Bay, with a bye. But once again, this looks like a pretty close game. Not a whole lot of buys. A couple injuries to worry about on your side of the ball, but
yeah, we like you said, we got some injuries. I've already moved him out of my lineup. Looks like Casey's done the same since the last time I looked at this thing. His bench is stronger than mine with a 50 to a 35, but he's got Tom Brady hanging out over there and not being used. I got Minshew hanging out over there, but we both have got some zeros. I got double zeros with a couple of injuries. He's got a single on IR. Kareem Hunt, though, this is where things start to swing in his favor. Kareem Hunt sitting on the bench, 16-22 with Chubb being out. He should jump into the game. I actually think we got to go Casey on this one. I think he's got the advantage going in.
For sure. He's got to make that slight matchup change. And kind of like the final talking point for this game, or for kind of the holes, is can Justin attack the waiver wire to knock off Derek, who still hasn't figured out how to use the waiver wire and decides to drop his kicker? So
you know what's funny too? This is happening live.
Yeah.
Because when we looked at this earlier, the kicker was in. Bridgewater was not the QB he was using. So literally, as we're recording this, he's just effing it up.
Derek, you need to stop. Stop.
Or keep doing what you're doing and make things interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
On the Justin side of the ball, Russell Wilson. Johnson, if he puts up the numbers, is there. Hilaire against Las Vegas. It's projected to be big. Here's an interesting one. Jones, again, only projected at 559. Against Carolina, I know he's questionable, but he could go off and make things happen there. I wonder if we see, because Tennessee's back in the game, I don't think Justin's made all the moves yet. I think we're going to see this thing tighten up a little bit, and like you said, is Justin going to be able to do enough the waiver wire or the bench to make it happen?
Yeah, and Justin, Julio Jones, that's a hard guy not to play, but he has got a hamstring injury for now, and I'd go put somebody else in. I'd go use Marquise Brown, Corey Davis, and try to use up his bench because someone needs to take Derek down, and I think this week's matchup's the time to try it.
I gotta tell you, what we're talking about benches. Derek's got a stout one. At least as far as the projections go, he's got things that he can play with. Some of the rest of us don't have those kind of maneuvers. He's got his big players in, except for the kicker. I'm going to go ahead and hit refresh, just in case he's picked up a kicker. Let's see here, has it popped in? Not yet. Not yet. It has not. But he's got his good buddy Ridley back in the game against Carolina. I think we can expect to see a blowout on that end. Be curious to see how it all ends up. Still the Jets, by the way, in the defense. So I don't think Justin's done everything just yet.
No, for sure. We got to wait for the waiver wires to hit. And as we know, projections mean what, Mike?
Jack shit, my friend.
All right. On that note, Mike, are you going to go with... Are you going to go... I almost wanted to end it right there. That was awesome. I was going to... Unfortunately,
I'm going to go with me all the time. Me.
Damn.
Don't ask me. What, man.
I unfortunately for me and this league, I think Derek's going to hold on for another win and go 5-0. And it's going to...
It sure does look that way, but you know what? I like this. I like this KC versus Las Vegas, the Seattle versus Minnesota. I really don't like Philly against Pitt. I think he should do something with the tight end game. Get Ebron in there. Flip it around. You know what? I think I'm going to go Justin. I think Justin's going to be the first one to knock him off. He's going to go from getting a single dub to knocking off the boy and getting 2 and 3. We're going to go Justin on this wire. He's waiver wire 2. He's going to be able to pick something up to get in there. Derek's going to have to wait around until everybody else has had the pickings at 12. Let's see what happens.
I like it. I'm actually excited for tomorrow. And on that note, guys, we'll talk to you next week for hopefully what I see is Derek at the 4-1.
And you in the 1 and 4.
We can only dream. Later, guys.
See you next time.